Nick has got a number of hats actually, but I'm going to introduce you as Secretary of the General Synod Gender and Sexuality Group.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nick Tall. I am a member of the General Synod, and I help to organise the inclusive constituency on Synod. Another thing I also do is I help support people and focus on elections to General Synod. I help to run the 2021 Inclusive Church General Synod election campaign, which was a coalition of numerous inclusive groups, including Watch. At the moment, I'm helping to set up a new group called Together for the Church of England, which is aiming to campaign for a Church of England for all, and I will say a little bit more about that later. We know that for women in the church is not equal yet. We've heard all about those problems today. We've looked at the underlying causes. We've looked at the damage that it causes for people. I want to talk about some ways that we can actually change that. A lot of the problems that we face, they are enforced through structures, through rules, through procedures. Now, these things are not immutable laws of nature that we just have to put up with. They're not handed down to us from on high for us just to accept and obey. They have been decided through governance processes, usually through people meeting in a room, talking things through, and then making a decision on behalf of everyone else, sometimes involving a vote. So it's pretty obvious. If the rules are made by people, they can be changed by people, right? So, if you want to change the decisions that are made in that room, as far as I can see, there are broadly two ways you can go about it. The first way is you try and influence the people who are going to be in that room making that decision. You can write blogs in the hope that they will read them. You can send them letters and hope you will persuade them. You can protest. You can stand outside the room holding a banner saying, "Do the thing." You might write "please" at the bottom if you're feeling polite. Maybe that will work, and actually it's very good, that sort of protest, for raising awareness, making people realize there is a problem. But actually, the people inside the room, if they're minded to, could still ignore you. The second way, and the one that I would argue is more effective, is to be the person in the room where the decision is made. And if that decision is going to involve a vote, make sure you bring a lot of allies with you. Now, if you only remember one thing from me today, it's this. If you want to make change in the Church of England, you need to understand its governance structures. You need to know the systems and the processes that underlie those structures. And also, you need to make sure that collectively you can get enough people inside that room when it matters and when a decision is going to be made. I'm going to be honest, I know most of us will avoid more church meetings like the plague. I mean, we've all got enough to do. But ask yourself this. If you're not on that synod or this committee, if you're not at that meeting, when it's making a decision that affects your life, who else is going to be there? Now, General Synod, which is the National Assembly of the Church of England, is the room where quite a lot of decisions end up eventually being made. At the moment, we have got a lot on our faith with living in love and faith, looking at LGBTQIA+ inclusion. One reason that vote after vote has passed in a positive direction for inclusion is that we've done all the groundwork to make sure that people got elected, and once they were elected, we made sure that people have been well briefed and that we've got organised. Don't get mad, get organised. There was a landmark vote on the Living in Love and Faith process which passed last year, February 2023. It wasn't a fluke. We didn't all just turn up one day, say, what are we doing? Oh, let's do this. It was actually based on about 5 years' work supporting people through elections, getting people in that room, and then working together in the face, I must say, of very organized, very concerted opposition, which is still fighting, still trying to deny the fundamental equality that we need to have as a church which proclaims the gospel of Christ. Now, it's important, looking ahead, that we have people there in numbers. Any vote on General Synod where it's a highly contested area is very likely to be very close indeed. In my church back in Somerset, I've got a really good friend called Mike. Mike was a member of Synod back in 1992, and he was there for the women priests' vote. I'm pleased to say that Mike voted in favour, but he knows that if he and just one other person in the House of Laity had changed their minds and had voted against, the legislation wouldn't have passed. It was that close. Back in November last year, there was an important amendment that was brought by the Bishop of Oxford as part of the Living in Love and Faith debate. That passed by just one vote in the House of Laity. 99 in favour, 98 against. This is what we work with. I also have to say that the elections from deanery synods out in the diocese across the country that put people onto General Synod are also really close. In 2015, half of all of the elections to General Synod had a winning margin of 5 votes or less. When that close vote last November went through, the one that was just by 1 vote, I turned and I saw out of the corner of my eye a friend of mine called Catherine, who's a representative from the Diocese of Leeds. Now, I know Catherine herself got onto Synod by just 1 vote. And it dawned on me that somewhere out in West Yorkshire, known only to God, there was a deanery synod member who was busy and thought, I've got something to do, what was it? And they just remembered at the last minute, nearly missed the deadline, but they found the time to put a tick in a box and email it back. And that person, without realizing, may well have changed the direction of the Church of England. Don't tell me that voting doesn't make a difference. At the moment, there are various by-elections happening in dioceses, and there's a lot of work behind the scenes to find inclusive candidates and to organize within the diocese to get support behind them. And of course, in 2026, there will be the next main General Synod elections. If you want to move the needle on equality, organize to get good people elected, you could stand. We need people like you there. If we don't, people not like you will be making the decisions. But before we get to 2026, there are other important elections that are closer to home. In the next few months, diocesan synods are going to be elected. Now, these are often not contested, so it's an open door to influence things. And diocesan synods will have a really important job to do in the first 6 months that they're established. They will take effect from August, and by the end of the year, they will be appointing various boards and committees. And there are 2 I want to point out: bishops' councils and vacancy in see committees. Bishops' councils helped shape the overall strategic direction of the diocese across lots of different areas, so they can be important to be there. Vacancy in see committees, I'm going to lecture you a little bit here, okay. Vacancy in see committees, they sound dull, they are really important. And I hope most of you in this room and most of you watching online will see if you can stand to be on the Vacancy in see committee in your diocese in elections later this year. What does it do? Well, this committee steps in when a diocese is looking for a new diocesan bishop. They draw up the diocesan statement of needs. They identify the sort of qualities that they're looking for in their next bishop. They can insist that their next bishop will ordain women. And crucially, they choose 6 people from the diocese to go off to be on the national interview panel. Right, at the moment, we have 35 diocesan bishops in post out of a possible 42. There are some vacancies. Of those 35, if you've read your leaflets, you will know that just 7 are women. 1 in 5. There are as many diocesan bishops called either Stephen or Michael as there are women, and that is not good enough. I do have to say I have nothing against Archbishop Stephen, and my own Bishop Michael Beasley. He's a great chap. They are both great bishops. My point is not about them. My point is about the many great women who should be diocesan bishops but aren't, because the decisions in the room are not favouring them. So if you want to change that, find out how the system works. Get in the room, and for goodness sake, get lots of allies on your vacancy in C committee. There's one diocese last year, they suddenly found they had a vacancy. They weren't expecting their bishop to go anywhere, but he did. And the committee met. And of around 25 people on that group, 4 of them were from just one parish. One was the vicar, who happened to chair the local diocesan evangelical fellowship, and he'd got 3 of his parishioners to stand, and no one else did because they thought it was a bit boring. So don't take your eye off the ball. I hope you're getting the point I'm trying to make, that the way to change things is you understand the systems and you get involved and you make sure that you are there when those decisions are made. You might be thinking that it sounds like a lot of work. You might be thinking that it sounds really complicated. Fortunately, you don't have to do it alone. From within the General Synod, out of our experience of having to really organise and be a very close-knit group when it comes to living in love and faith, the inclusive constituency has come together, and we've decided we need to set up a new campaigning group called Together for the Church of England. This campaigning group is coming together and is being supported by many inclusive partner groups as well. We have 2 people deeply involved with Watch who are trustees of Together for the Church of England. We're also looking to set up diocesan networks, bringing people together who share a vision of the Church of England, which is our national church, being there for the whole of England, being a home for everyone, and where discrimination has no place. We recognise that all exclusion is the same exclusion, whether that's due to race, or gender fluidity, or sexuality, or disability, or socio-economic power. Just think about it. If all the people in our church who are excluded in one way or another work together, imagine what sort of change could happen. Now, at the national level, we do have the expertise that understands the systems. At the moment, you'll be pleased to hear, we are winning by-elections for General Synod because we know how to organise. We won a by-election for a lay place up in Blackburn Diocese, of all places, recently. We had an inclusive candidate elected there. I was delighted. But it's no good having a few people at the centre who understand how things work if you don't have those local diocesan-based groups with local knowledge who we can work with and where we can support each other. Even though Together for the Church of England is only in the very early stages of setting up, we already have contacts setting up networks in 28 of our dioceses, and we're in talks with quite a lot of the others. Things are moving. We have a website. It only went up last week. I haven't had time to put slides together. togethercofe.org.uk. So together, cofe.org.uk. Take a look and know that we are here for all who want to end discrimination in the church, particularly in its rules and in its structures and in its processes. And we want you to be there when those decisions are being made. So I hope that gives you some encouragement that actually change is very much possible, and a sense of a direction to take, and that there are people to walk with on this journey so that we can make things happen. Thank you.